Today in the world, technology is everywhere, even in classrooms. However, that necessarily isn't a good thing. Technology isn't great for everything, although people are forcing it onto the future generations. Technology is not a good fit for education because students can easily cheat, become actively distracted, get too much screen time, and devices cost too much, which leaves some students at disadvantage. Technology isn't right for education because students can cheat easier with devices. The National Education Association states, high-tech student cheating has become a particularly acute problem in K-12 learning. Cheating happens by students looking up the answers online or buying papers online, so students don't have to look for themselves. With trillions of answers right at the student's fingertips within seconds, they can find answers and potentially ruin their grades and make learning impossible. This shows that technology is extremely accessible and makes cheating a larger problem. Another downside to technology in classrooms is that students find cheating a larger problem. Another downside to technology in classrooms is that students find more ways on technology to be off task. An article published by Harvard University explains that the temptation to be off task on devices proves that technology can hurt education because the distraction is large. Because being off task is becoming more common among students, more kids tend to fall behind in their learning. Students are more off task because their actions are easily hidden on devices, unlike papers and books. Again, temptation is why kids are so distracted, because they feel the need to be off task. Students even see their neighbors off task, giving them the impression that it's okay to do it. Another point that proves technology doesn't help education is that students increase kids' amount of screen time, which hurts their health. In fact, CNN explains the average time spent using screen media is 4 hours and 36 minutes. When students use technology in school, it adds on to that screen time, which is bad for kids because the screen can affect their health. A UCLA article explains in more detail that the bright light of the screen can affect sleep patterns and hunger, so they can constantly eat and get poor sleep, leading to obesity. Furthermore, technology in classrooms is expensive, and it puts certain groups of kids at disadvantage, for not all can afford devices. An article by Optimal Network explains that devices cost between $600 and $1,000 per desktop, and between $900 and $1,500 per laptop. Technology can't fit everyone's price range, so devices aren't accessible. If kids who go to a school where devices are required and they can't afford devices, they are at disadvantage. Again, showing that technology isn't suited for education. Technology simply isn't healthy for education because students can cheat easier, become off task too easily, worsen their health with technology overuse, and fall behind due to lack of funding or resources. If people keep forcing technology into education, it will end up doing more harm than good for the future generations. Technology is an incredibly beneficial tool used in our modern education system. Online tools are used to help engage students while teaching children valuable internet safety skills. Using technology in school can help students prepare for the future by doing so. Sean Coughlin, a writer from BBC News, mentions that there is evidence that children use technology is used to help motivate pupils who might otherwise be disengaged. Certain apps and websites can be used as motivators in the classroom to help students interact with what they are learning. Second of all, online safety is one of the biggest concerns regarding today's youth. Using technology in schools aids in teaching children how to stay safe online in a controlled environment. Millions of dollars have been spent developing specific online programs to teach students about internet safety. This is money well spent. Robin Schulman, a Huffington Post writer, says that digital citizenship is not only a priority today, but is also an ongoing concern that impacts young people from middle school through college and into the workforce. Additionally, technology has become a major commonality between people in different parts of the world, giving people the ability to communicate with each other no matter where one lives or what language one speaks. Without learning the proper way to communicate, people will not know how to deal with certain situations, like technological hacks, viruses, identity theft, criminal threats, and cyberbullying. Because of the frequent use of technology, students must be educated on the different scams and bugs that come with opening barriers. The use of technology in school gives students the opportunity to become responsible young people by learning how to be safe online. These technological skills will help young people advance in society, become safer, more successful people. It isn't only important for students to learn online safety, but how to use technology in general. South New Hampshire University mentions that today, around 78% of jobs require some sort of technological knowledge. Therefore, it is necessary for students of today's generation to learn how to use technology so that they will be prepared for the future and have quality jobs. Students need to be educated on how to use digital technology. They need to learn about the different digital dimensions that will enhance their futures for employment. Some examples include coding, animation, web design, blogging, cybersecurity, and just for narrowing down information, especially in high school and college. Technology is necessary to improve the future workforce and to help students start in school. As technology skills continue to grow in demand, workers will succeed when they, in partnership with educational institutions and employers, foster their capacity to learn new skills, says South New Hampshire University once again. This is important evidence to show how much technology is used in our world, and more importantly, why students must be taught how to use it. Students need to be capable of using technology to strive in the technological world they live in. This is an important issue, and is why technology must be integrated into classrooms around the world. So, this side says that kids who aren't as motivated in classrooms can use technology, and that will make them more motivated in the classrooms. Well, kids don't want to look at the screens all day. They want to actually have human interaction, not just be staring down at screens, typing away. And also, there's more room for distraction because the teacher can't be constantly looking at devices all day because there's like a lot of kids in each classroom. So that just increases distractions. And like I said before, there's no adult guidance. And this is all said by the Washington Post, who has done many articles on technology use. Furthermore, this side has said that it prepares them for the future. Well, it's not like if someone learns how to use a device, they're going to suddenly be the best person in the world. It's not going to introduce new technology. It's not going to introduce new worlds of technology. They still need to know how to do basic fundamental things. And if all their lives students are taught on devices, they aren't going to be able to do the old-fashioned way, more or less, a few decades ago, what our parents learned. And that was said by the Huffington Post, which is also a credible source. And another thing that this side has said is that kids in school are supposed to be taught education, and they're going to then be able to strive in the world. Well, like I said before, kids shouldn't be so dependent on technology. And like I said, kids a few years ago were fine without technology, and they're doing quite well in the world, I'm sure. And this is just teaching kids to do everything on technology. And if you're trying to have a safe environment, you're protecting them for all these hackers and cyberbullies. And you need to let kids know that there is a dark world out there, and if you just keep them safe from it all the time, they're not going to know anything else. They're just going to know what they were taught in school in the safe environment they're in.
So, it's a common misconception that technology distracts students in the classroom, but in fact, it helps them because using technology, students become more engaged because it introduces the idea of active learning. Instead of a teacher giving a student a book and saying, read page 10 and write a paragraph on what you read, active learning allows students to look up a website on their own and find information that is useful and helpful to what they are trying to find. It is also saying that not all students have access to technology, and that is true. However, many schools have programs that allow students to borrow or rent a device so they can use them throughout the school year in order to get their work done. So they are not shortchanged amongst the other students. So cheating is a big problem in schools where tests can be cheated on using technology. But there's ways to intervene against that. If you simply say to students, close your devices, no looking at devices, or put all your devices on the floor, instead of allowing them to have them on their desk and out in the open, they can then they cannot use them for cheating. And Ellen Kennedy mentions that looking at students' search histories will let you know if they were cheating on a test, if they were off task during class. And punishments can be put in place for students who do those sort of things, which will then make them less likely to do that in the future. And again, this idea is if a student is spending lots of time on their devices and the light is causing them to have changes to their mood and to their sleep cycles, then a parent can simply step in and say, you're not allowed to have a device past this certain time, because when they take that device away, the student can no longer do that, and then they can no longer, disrupt their sleep cycles or change their mood, and so just using these simple interventions can prevent things like that. So technology in schools is helpful most of the time instead of harmful.
Okay. So first off, you guys said that people who don't have the budget to use devices, they can use the devices for schools. But you didn't take into consideration that some schools don't have the budget for devices either. And that's why some schools don't have, unlike this school, who has a nice program for devices and everyone can afford devices, but some schools don't have the budget for devices, so they are also put at disadvantage. And also, the schools who have, and especially at public schools, who they don't have people paying for their schools, it comes out like taxes, so they have a harder time getting devices, so they have to do budget cuts, which cuts out some programs that are kind of necessary for schools. And also, taking away, you're talking about during tests, taking away devices, it doesn't necessarily do anything. If you tell them to put away their devices, they can always take them back out and cheat again, which is another disadvantage to devices. Also, you guys are talking about how if you want to reduce screen time, take away from home. Yes, but what about school? There's still school. There's 7 hours during a school day, and although you don't use your screen for all 7 hours, it still adds up to a lot, which does affect people's health, sleep patterns and stuff like that. And also, for off tasks, yes, teachers can check search histories, but kids can also delete their search histories before a teacher can get to them, because teachers aren't always on hand people. They can't always see what they're doing, so they can delete their search history before the teachers can see. And also, technology is not. Books are not. Technology is not necessarily more engaging. Like you said, books, unlike books. Yes, books are kind of boring. I agree, but technologies can make the student get off task. Like if they're looking at a website to find what was in the book, it can lead to other things that will disadvantage them.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say libraries also give students access to devices that students can use for schoolwork, and taxes from public schools actually provide more money for devices, like and this is from South New Hampshire University. The other team stated that it is more useful to learn the old-fashioned way, when relay technology is taking over the world and students will need to know how to use technology for the future. 78% of jobs require technological knowledge, and if students don't learn to use technology and learn in the old-fashioned way, they may not be working in an efficient way and may lose their jobs. And as Sean Caldwell from BBC News says, the technological world we live in today's generation will create a sense of empowerment for young people and create an ethos in which people can feel trusted and valued. And as Kimball's book says, technology helps students communicate. While students are working together on a project, they may not be able to get together over the weekend to communicate with each other on this project. This is where technology comes into being helpful. Using technology in this way allows students to work together and communicate on a professional level.
So, to conclude, devices aren't helpful because they don't answer all new opportunities. They just might help a smudge in getting to those new opportunities. Also, people need to learn basic skills. Writing and reading like in cursive and doing math on a piece of paper, those are never going to go away. They're always going to be in the school system, and just putting a device in a device isn't going to help them because devices can't do everything. And also, if a device is at a library, you can't bring the device to the school, and that's just cutting out of the library's budget, which just is like, you kill two birds with one stone, because it's taking out a budget from two different separate places, which just forces the point more that technology doesn't help. Also, you want people to engage with devices, but they're not going to engage because they're going to be off task. They're going to be bored that people are just looking at smartboards and computers all day. They're not going to be engaged at all. And teachers can't watch students all the time. They can't watch, just line them up in the back of the room and make their devices go there and just watch all the devices. They can't do that, and that's a burden on the teacher to make sure that kids are always on task. And furthermore, when kids, you said that kids could just, teachers could just take the kids' devices away and ask them to put it on the ground. Well, sorry to break it to you, but kids misbehave, and they're gonna maybe just do it anyway, because they're just they're children. They're gonna be off task and they're gonna be sneaky. And when people cheat and they have the ability to, it doesn't help them learn. It just helps them get through things faster, basically. And in conclusion, the world, it wants to succeed. The world should succeed, but should have basic principles and just shouldn't rely on technology all the time. Thank you.
So it is very important that technology is integrated into schools for education around the globe to provide access to learning tools. People can communicate better with technology using video chats, text, and people use it in our world today so frequently that people are so used to it, which is why if technology was integrated into schools, people will be more used to using it and will be more engaged because that's what they use at home. I bet many children use their devices at home, which will make it easier for them to use them in schools because it's something they already know how to do. Websites like Google Drive are mainly where students write essays. And you said that people need to know how to write things, which is true. But students need to it's easier for students to sometimes write on digital technology because it's easier. And also it's easier to give access to teachers and parents who want to see their work. Technology also surrounds us. People use it so often that they need to know how to defend themselves and how to use it in situations where it could be endangering them or where people may need it the most. Most people don't, not all people have access to devices, but most devices are given to children in areas where they go common, like the library, which is why children go there to research or to do schoolwork. And there usually are computers at libraries, there usually are computers, so children are able to do their work there. And if schools can't provide them in their environment at school, then they can also use them in different areas around the community. Using technology in schools is one of the most helpful tools for learning. Therefore, it should be utilized in schools to better the education for students. We are also allowing children to have more access to sharing and to communicate with different peers and what they're learning about. And also, students will need to know how to use it for employment and will need to know how to use it to better their